Joining us today is a local author, actor, and speaker, John Donovan, to talk about his latest book, Sacred Asides. And this is a collection of blank verse poetry that brings biblical stories to life with rich storytelling. John, thank you so much for being here. You have your book with you right here. Tell us all about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
So the name is Sacred Asides, as you said. And sacred means holy, and asides is a term from Shakespearean plays when a character steps aside from the action to share their private thoughts with the audience. And so this book is about 20 poems for various biblical characters and stories that you may know well from the Bible, or some that maybe you don't know as well, or some that I've just entirely made up for thematic purposes.
Okay.
Get to share their insights and their feelings of various events.
Okay, interesting. So this is something that you've created. Is this from your perspective, or the characters or the people that you would find or read about in the Bible?
A great question. It is mostly the characters that you read about in the Bible.
Okay.
And like I said, some of them you take a little bit more liberties with.
Sure.
Think Paradise Lost.
Okay.
Right? And by no means am I a John Milton. But what I will say is that's very much the idea here, where you have in Paradise Lost the story of Genesis, but there's a lot of context added, a lot of before, after, interior thoughts, dialogues that you don't find in the Bible, but very much fit in to flesh out a fuller story. And that's what I've aimed to do in maybe bite-sized portions throughout this book.
I'm just curious on how you even start to do something like that.
I also would love to know if you could just loop our viewers in what it means to be blank in verse written in that format.
I'd love to. So blank verse is a style of poetry in iambic pentameter. And before everyone starts to shudder, I think we're all going back to our 9th grade
I was
English class.
my lit class that I did not pay attention in, right?
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
So iambic pentameter is a type of rhythm that's repeated 5 times. Iambic.
Okay.
Iambic is a rhythm, pentameter 5 times. And so blank verse means that it just doesn't rhyme. So throughout this, you're going to find line after line of 10 syllables, alternating in unstressed, stressed patterns. And already maybe people listening are going, I didn't need an English lesson this morning.
No, that we always need to be reminded a little
Right.
bit of it.
But it's very much, that's the style that Paradise Lost is written in. And when you say, well, John, why would you do it in iambic pentameter? People's eyes are going to glaze over. That's an excellent question. And part of the reason is poetry adds gravitas to some stories. I mean, after all, I once heard this described as a little bit of Bible fan fiction.
Okay, interesting.
And it's a good term. You should always be a fan of the things you're writing fiction
Right.
about, right? But nevertheless, the poetry adds an element of gravitas. It evokes the tradition of Paradise Lost or the other epic poems of the Western canon, Iliad, Odyssey, Aeneid, and Divine Comedy.
Very interesting. I'm curious, like, what was your inspiration behind this? Like, why did you say, sit down, hey, I want to create something like this to kind of paint the picture of some stories that we, wouldn't necessarily read about in the Bible?
It's a great question. Originally, it started with just one poem. The very first poem in here, Mark of Cain, is about Cain's perspective, the first murderer from the Bible. And essentially, I'd been inspired just watching an online video all about the idea of mercy. And once you get more than one idea, they start to mix together, and suddenly words and lines just start appearing in my head, and I had to write it down. From there, you start thinking, is there anything else here? You add 1 or 2, and it fast forward until this year, I released a Substack, so people can subscribe to my website if they want to get updates on essays or articles or other stories. And I figured, well, you know what? Lent's coming up. How about this idea that was always far the way down? I only have a couple poems written. Maybe I really flesh this out so I can get something out there for people to enjoy this Easter season.
I'm sure as you get going on some of the stories, you probably spawn a new idea for another story down the road,
Absolutely. So your book features some well-known biblical characters, but also some lesser-known ones. How did you decide, okay, who we're writing about? Tell us about that journey and that process.
It's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Essentially, the way that I would approach what gets into this book is I was looking for what I'd call the in-between stories. I like to find those stories that maybe people, upon approaching, would go, I'm not really even sure what's happening here. And that's where I think it gets a little bit more fun for me. It's the Bible, so you could really choose any story and try to make it sound epic with iambic pentameter. But for me, a story starts when you have not just the plot or the characters, but also an idea you really want to explore. When multiple ideas come together, and for me, maybe the little bit lesser known stuff. So I was even Googling lesser known Bible stories, where are we at? just trying to get daily inspiration for where things can mix together.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you're an actor, you also do improv. I know you
That's right.
work heavily at the Comedy Project as well.
Yes.
Can you talk about just how those experiences in your life have influenced a book such as this one?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So as you said, I do improvise down at the Comedy Project on Leonard. We have shows every week, 7 and 9 on Fridays and Saturdays. Every Monday there's opportunities, every other Thursday. So tons of performance opportunities. I am so blessed to be able to perform so often in a craft that I love. I've been performing since I was a kid. And so I think this propensity to create content, to be engaging with written word and constantly creating, it's just part of who I am. I can't help but do it. And so when people say, oh, John, that's really cool, you wrote a book, it's almost like I can't help but do it. I absolutely love what I do, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to perform weekly and to be able to produce books like this for people to enjoy.
That's pretty cool that you get to live in a cool city, do what you want to do, and also be able to do a side project like that.
Absolutely, and you can tell you're into acting and performing and all the
Yes.
things. You're very animated, which is
Very
which is great.
charismatic.
We
Yeah.
love, we
Oh,
love
hey,
animated.
wow, thank you.
Good.
That's a lot coming from you guys. Thank you.
This isn't your first book though that you wrote. So okay, you tackled one, then you went on to the next. Like, more information on both those things.
I told you I can't help but do it.
Yeah.
So if iambic pentameter and the Bible and Paradise Lost wasn't enough for you, I think I'm just trying to imitate the greats is what I'm doing. So my first book was a Shakespearean tragedy.
Okay.
It's called The Tragedy of Thespis. Thespis is the first actor. So there you go, even more tying together.
Yep.
It's a Shakespearean tragedy all about the downfall of the first actor in ancient Greece. And so that was just a passion project. Hearing a little bit about some of the stories surrounding him, there's those multiple ideas again. They come together and I go, oh, this has got to be a thing. So that's available on Amazon, and I'm pretty proud of both of these works.
Yeah, of course. So you just got this one out on Amazon. It's available now. We actually have your link to your book there. And it looks like, you know, things are going pretty well. How's it been going with it so far, sales-wise?
I have been very, very grateful for every single time that a friend or even someone who's sort of an acquaintance or on the outskirts says, oh, hey, John, I bought your book. It's like, thank you so much for supporting. Because after all, I write this for me. Even if no one was buying, I'd be pumping out these chapters. But it's always gratifying when someone takes the opportunity to go ahead and support me in this endeavor.
Yeah, you mentioned you also have a Substack too.
That's
for the
right.
ones that have not been published yet, I'm assuming, right? Or have those been published in this year?
Oh, it's a spectacular question. So the Substack is a form of publishing. It's out on the internet. So it gets sent right to your email daily, which is wonderful. But I also do share things that I have already published. So every week I'm posting 3 poems from this. Yes, I'd love people to buy it, but ultimately I want people to have access to it.
Sure, absolutely.
What are some of the challenges and things you've faced in book writing? I know there are a lot of people interested in writing books, but they might not even know where to start.
It's a spectacular question. Obviously, writer's block. You sit down and you go, wait, what do I have here?
I do that like almost every day.
Right, we
like
do
at our
remember that
computer.
from high school,
Yeah.
for sure.
That makes sense. What I have found, I read once that the cure for writer's block is just more information. And so how I shared earlier that once I have, here's a biblical story, here's an idea I want to explore. It's once multiple things, these things that I mentioned, start to come together that an idea starts to get formed, and then you can't help but have the words. And so that's what's always worked for me. If I'm going, I want to write something, but I got nothing, that's when I need to start saying, well, what is the intersection between my experience, these things that I'm interested in, these stories, these characters? And then you can't help but start.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you actually kind of led right into our next question. How do you balance this, you know, what we read in the Bible versus what's going on in the thoughts with your own mind and your ideas? How do you balance that and put it on the page?
It's a spectacular question. Now, one of my hopes is with this book is obviously it's not sacred scripture.
Right.
But as individuals approach this, I want them to be reminded that a lot of what we read in the Bible are historical events that happened. And there's also a lot of things that happen to these people outside of the words that are written down. One of the poem follows St. Peter on Holy Saturday, the day between Good Friday and Easter. We don't have it written about in the Bible, but he was around. What was he doing? What was he experiencing? There's an ancient tradition going all the way back to St. Augustine and possibly further that the words in the Bible are written to the people that they were written to, but also to us. And as a result, we can constantly find ourselves interacting with it and having these words spark new meanings. And so the hope is that with these imaginative supposals that people can start to see, hey, maybe there's bigger events going on here. And maybe the various things that are happening in my life that I'm thinking about, that I'm struggling with, there's points of connection that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. I want to first touch on, because I know we're running out of time, but I want to make sure that people know that there is a book signing for you coming up. When is that? Where can we find you? On Saturday, April 5th.
I'm super excited. I'm going to be at Roots Brew Shop. That's on the west side. A friend of mine runs. It's a spectacular coffee shop. I think coziest in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
So everyone should definitely check it out. But I'll be there this Saturday, April 5th from 7:30 to noon. So if people want to stop by and just say hi or pick up a copy, I'll be there signing all morning, and I am thrilled for the opportunity.
All right. Any final thoughts? Any other projects you've got coming up that we can look forward to?
I always got something going on. Right now, I'm releasing a number of YouTube videos where English teachers and other individuals I'm guiding them through some of the works of Shakespeare. As you tell, I'm kind of stuck right now in that mindset. I have lots of different interests, and so there's a children's book I'm working on, a variety of other things that I'm working on. I am so fortunate that I have enough time in my day, the ability to just really write whatever I'm interested in.
All right. Well,
So
John,
inspiring.
yes, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Best of luck to you with this book and, of course, any other projects that you're going to be working on. You can also see him down at the Comedy Project, too, here in Grand Rapids.